One of the things that I love about learning about attachment styles is it feels like it's another lens or framework through which you can view your relationships and not make them so personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we tend to look at the way that other people behave as a direct reflection of us. And as I listen and try to absorb everything that you're saying, Dr. Franco, I'm learning more and more that a lot of times the way somebody reacts, particularly in stressful situations or situations where they feel triggered, has nothing to do with you and
Yeah.
everything to do with their own internal wiring.
Exactly. Because what's happening in our body is more compelling to us than what's happening in the world, which means that if you're telling me, even very kindly and politely, that, like, hey, you hurt me, and my body's suddenly on fire and I'm feeling like I'm a failure and I'm feeling so overwhelmed, right? Like, it doesn't matter that you would approach me very kindly and sensitively. What I'm going to respond to is the fire that's happening in my body, right? Like that. And
Mm.
that's even what I'm going to remember about the experience more so than, how you approach me and the realities of the external circumstance. And that's why attachment style is so tricky, right? Because there's all these signs for all of us that people are loving us on any given day. People are smiling at you. People are holding the door for you. Cars are stopping when you want to cross the street. People are texting you to check in. People are liking your Instagram page, right? But, if your attachment style says people don't love you, you're not going to read and take in any of that, right? It's like, it's how we're impacted by our relationships is less about, well, I can't say less about, but it's not just about what's actually happening, and it's so much about how we're interpreting what's happening, and that interpretation process is our attachment style. It's our interpretation of what's happening, what's happening in the objective world refracted through our lens of our attachment style. And so that is why it can get so tricky to get out of your attachment style, because you see in the world all the things that match your reality, right? Like the avoidantly attached people thinks people are untrustworthy, and you're trying to show up for them so much and be reliable. One time something else happens and you're not able to be reliable to them, right? And all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, it's true. You can't trust people. They're all going to betray you," right? And it's like that person's just being human. You have to let people be human. So that's why, like, there's just this huge confirmation bias when it comes to attachment style that can make it very hard to get out of, and why it's so helpful for me personally, and I think for everybody, to learn about and understand our attachment style, to understand our lens, to understand that it is a lens and it's not just the objective reality of the situation, because through that understanding we can change.
I am curious, do attachment styles attract opposites or the same types? I mean, how does that work? Because I often hear people going, I just keep dating the same loser over and over. Or you know what I'm saying? Like, why do I
Yeah.
always get people that are emotionally unavailable?
Yeah, so let's think about it, right? You're dating someone and they're hot and cold, and all of a sudden they pull away and they don't answer your text when they say that they will. And if you're secure, right, you're like, bye. Like, I feel happy about myself. If you're not going to treat me in a way that reflects that, I'm going to find someone else who does, right? Like, they're not willing to endure pain for the sake of being in a relationship. So, who is going to end up with a more avoidantly attached person is the person that's like, I am enthralled by your inconsistency and I have to get you to like me now. And that's my purpose and my journey. And in some ways, the highs and the lows really excite me, right? Like the anxiously attached person is going to be more likely to put up with some of the intimacy quirks of the avoidantly attached person, right? Because again, the anxiously attached person is kind of willing to sacrifice their own sense of self to be in a relationship. The securely attached person is not. So anxiously avoidantly attached people often need anxiously attached people as the glue that will kind of keep them in relationship
Hmm.
to each other. So that's why we see a lot of anxiously and avoidantly attached pairings. And you hear a lot of anxiously attached people that are like, I need to earn their love. If they give it freely, I'm not attracted to that. Or if someone's totally secure and available, they're like, "Yeah, just not feeling it," right? Because they confuse them being triggered with them being in love. They
Oh,
confuse,
can we
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah.
Confusing being triggered with being in love. Dr.
Yep.
Franco, let's
Yep.
unpack this.
Yeah. So if you're anxiously attached and you're triggered, someone's triggering your wounds of abandonment and you're feeling high arousal because of that. You're feeling very strong emotions because you're feeling triggered and wounded. It's like hurt. Hurt is like a high arousal emotion, and so is excitement, and so is thrill, right? And so it can be easy to feel like I like this person because they're making me feel high arousal, which is high arousal is present in pain, high arousal is present in excitement. And so you're being pulled in. It's funny when I was like more anxiously attached to people, it'd be like I would want to be with this person until they'd want to be with me. And then I'd feel like, oh, and now I'm less excited for some reason, right? And that's a sign that, oh, I was being pulled in by this wound of abandonment that they were triggering that made me want to find my sense of self again through getting them to like me. It was like I was trying to get my sense of self through being in the relationship with this avoidant person. But, in finding more security, it's more like I don't like feeling triggered. I don't like feeling like someone's going to abandon me and they're not going to show up for me. I no longer feel like that's sexy or enthralling because I have a more positive sense of myself and I look for relationships that reflect my own positive sense of myself. And secure person is like on their own side and they're wanting to take care of themselves and make
Mm.
themselves feel safe, right? And so they're attracted to places that make them feel grounded and make them feel safe in that way.
Let's put the shoe on the other foot and talk about that same trigger versus love from an avoidant attachment person. What would they be feeling in terms of how they collapse, a situation that's triggering with love?
So here's the confusing thing about attachment. When you're falling in love, it can sometimes replace your attachment style a bit. So it may take you a year to kind of figure out what someone's attachment is. Like everything can be going great and you're connecting and there's a lot of intimacy building. And then a year in, once you start living together, you're just like, who is this person? Like all of a sudden they're so closed off. All of a sudden they're so demanding of me. Like what the heck happened? It's because like all of the like chemicals that are released, this cocktail of chemicals when you're falling in love can be so powerful that they might replace some of your underlying wounds and triggers and make you feel pulled
Mm.
into this relationship even when you're afraid of intimacy. So you can carry both of those things at the same time. So sometimes you'll see like people feeling secure with each other for a year when there's all of this cocktail of emotions. Avoidantly attached people feeling comfortable with connection and intimacy, right? And then after a year, after some time, all of a sudden, those avoidant feelings come up, and all of a sudden they're like, I want to get out of this. All of a sudden they're like, I need to pull away. All of a sudden they're like, I feel really suffocated. All of a sudden they're like, my partner expects too much out of me. And so that is the really confusing thing. That's why it's so like hard. I don't know, really pat on the back to all of us who are just able to sustain healthy relationships because it's so hard. Um, but I think that's, what we can kind of tend to see. And I think the avoidant person, their template for intimacy is that people aren't going to respect their boundaries, is that they can't necessarily trust people. So when the anxiously attached person is like pushing too much or not respecting their boundaries and demanding a lot from them, again, that's part of their template for intimacy. It's not that someone's going to be loving and, hear them out and take their perspective into consideration. So in that way, the insecure attachment, it kind of fine tunes our expectations in relationships so that insecurely attached people, because their expectations of others are that other people will relate to them in an insecurely attached way, they're more willing to accept when someone does so in their
Hmm.
life. Whereas the
Hmm.
securely attached person, because their expectations of others is that you're going to treat me nicely, you're going to be loving towards me, you're going to be accepting of me, you're going to be kind toward me. When people aren't that way, they're like, this isn't good for me and this isn't a good fit for me.
It's interesting because as you're talking, I'm also thinking, boy, you see this play out in friendships too all the time, which is, of course, what your book is about, that, people collect best friends, and then all of a sudden, within a year, Now they're collecting a new best friend, and the other
Yep.
ones sort of faded away. So let's end by talking about secure attachment.
Yeah.
And what are some simple takeaways? You've already given us one, which is to start to notice how you're feeling.
Hmm.
And you've talked about giving yourself the assurance and the kind of love and comfort that you need. But what are some other tools that people can use starting today to begin the process of building a secure attachment with themselves?
Find securely attached people,
Okay,
build
where the hell are
relationships.
they hiding, Dr. Franco? And your schedule's very busy, so I know you don't have time to hang out with us.
um,
How do you
yeah.
know how do you know a securely attached person? Like, let's just scan a
Mm,
room. What am I
yeah.
looking for?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna, I think, take a little while for it to reveal itself, but like, is this person being vulnerable with you but not oversharing, which is a nuance that's kind of hard to interpret or to understand, right? Like, I don't know, are they sharing your life stories with you, their whole life story and their deep-seated trauma on the first day, or are they like sharing why the day was hard, they had a struggle today, right? That's the sort of appropriate vulnerability that we see in the securely attached person. The securely attached person is more loving towards you, they're affectionate towards you, they tell you how great that you are. If you bring up an issue with them and you're like, yeah, I'd love to hear from you more. Our friendship's so important to me. They're like, yeah, I'm going to try to make you feel more love, right? They're responsive to your needs. They don't try to shut your needs down or tell you that you're, wrong. The securely attached people has a positive view on others, right? If you hear things like nobody can be trusted or everybody's going to abandon you, that's a sign of more insecurely attached people. But the secure person is, I don't know, they see the best in people. If you
Mm.
hear them talk about some of their past relationships that didn't work, again, there's that nuance that, yeah, this part was good, but this part I really struggled with. They just have more empathy for people, to be honest. That is something that's linked to secure attachment: empathy, authenticity. You feel as if they're telling you, like, there's this way that I think inauthenticity can manifest as there's this uncomfortable feeling. And instead of myself feeling it, I'm now going to engage in this defense mechanism. I'm not going to talk about how I'm so much better than everyone because that person made me feel inferior. The secure person will just say that person made me feel inferior instead of being like, and I didn't care about them. These are all the reasons why, like, I'm so much better than them anyway, right? There's this sense that you're hanging out with someone that's kind of more authentic. I don't know. They also just make your nervous system feel calmer. So you're just going to feel a little bit
Mm.
more calm in their company. So those are some signs that you've like found a secure person. And the secure person, whether in friendship or in romantic relationship, what's going to happen is like they're going to keep treating you in a way that's counter to this internalized set of assumptions that you have, this internalized template. And over time, your template is going to be start to mold and change because they're giving you evidence that your template isn't necessarily correct. Um,
Wow.
so that's awesome. We
I
all
love
want the,
that. And is there
yeah.
anything that in the meantime you could add as a habit or something to do every day that would
Mm,
help you to start to reconnect and build that connection with yourself while you're scanning the world for more secure people to bring into your
yeah.
life?
I want you to savor a moment of acceptance that you experience every day because insecurely attached people, what they struggle with is feeling safe in relationships, no matter what that relationship is. To they're coming into the game with the baggage of this is not safe in different ways, right? So if you're insecurely attached and something happened for you today that made you feel accepted, I want you to write it down. I want you to focus on it. I want you to think about it until you feel some emotion, you feel the acceptance, you feel, the love within your body. You have to be able to savor and receive those experiences of safety and acceptance that as an insecurely attached person, you'd usually just ignore and usually
So,
not even register.
can I see if some of these are examples? So, like when a friend comes over for dinner and they bring cinnamon rolls,
Yeah.
knowing that they brought you something, a small gesture like that, acknowledging that that is a moment, that's something like that.
Absolutely. But it can even be so small as like, oh, my friend sent me a voice note today. They care about me. Or my friend commented on my picture that they like it. Like make it a practice to receive love. Like that's really
Ooh,
what I'm getting at here. Receiving love is not easy. It's something that we need to practice.
I hate that it's not easy.
I know, right?
And is that the bottom line when it comes to attachment theory? That the importance of attachment theory is that when you understand your attachment style, you now have a lens through which to really look at yourself and your inability to receive love. And now you
Mm,
can go to work
mm.
on learning how to become secure so you can let love in. Is that what this is truly about at the
Oh,
bottom
that's so
line?
beautiful, Mel. Yes, I love that.
You are going to finally get some answers to questions that I am sure have been on your mind for a long time. Questions like, why do I always feel left out in my friend group? Why do I always date the same losers over and over and over again? The answer is attachment theory.